you did a long sit down with him. Did your opinion on whether he should stay in the job change after that interview?
To be honest with you, look, this is the worst Premier League season that we've ever had, and he's under massive pressure, and anything could happen at the end of the season. Ineos have changed every other position at the top of the club outside of him. But at the moment, Bayern Munich is struggling to name a manager. Barcelona have stuck with Xavi. Liverpool have had their issues in terms of trying to attract their first and second choice. I don't see this sort of, if you like, obvious replacement that you just think, OK, we're going to go and get him. And every manager here over the last 10 years has struggled. Every manager. We're in the same position as we are at the end of Ollie's reign, Jose's reign, Louis van Gaal's reign, where he was sacked after an FA Cup final, and David Moyes obviously as well. Players have struggled and managers have struggled. So at some point you may as well just say, well, OK then, is it something else? Because every player that's come here in 10 years, apart from Bruno Fernandes, has deteriorated in performance and hasn't enhanced their, if you like, their reputations. So something fundamental is wrong, and Ineos are obviously trying to change that. So would you not just say, OK, Dan Ashworth's not in yet, Jason Wilcox is only just coming in and assessing the club, Dave Brailsford's only been in a couple of months, to change the manager as well? Is that the right thing to do? I'm not sure. I've never asked for a manager to be sacked on this channel for 10 years. I'm not going to start now. My view is he's under real pressure, Erik ten Hag. But when I sat down with him, he's confident in himself and he believes in himself. 2 years ago, this was seen as a smart appointment by everybody. This was seen as being one of the best coaches, most innovative coaches in Europe. Manchester United over the next 2 years have made this coach, in the last 12 months in particular, look like he's sort of like doesn't know what he's doing. But that happened to Ollie, that happened to Jose, that happened to Louis van Gaal, and he's done it to numerous coaches now, and sometimes the cycle, the roundabout's got to stop spinning.
Do you find that the lack of structure and then the amount of injuries this season have more bearing than Jamie Carragher saying, for example, that Manchester United look like one of the worst coach teams?
But they do.
Yeah. Do those first 2 points sort of mitigate that?
I think what's happened is that, so Erik ten Hag, when I went to see him, will point towards last season, same style of play, similar players, they kept the most clean sheets in the league. David De Gea won the Golden Glove. So he said it's not the style of play. He said it's basically the fact that we've missed our left side of our defence, in particular with Martinez and Shaw, and what they do is provide that extra pace, extra experience, extra quality, but also they step into midfield to support Casemiro. So when United are attacking, I think what he wants is that one of those left 2 centre-backs will go in and be that sort of, if you like, presence alongside Casemiro to sustain attacks. So he maintains that nothing's changed. Now, they had some bad defeats last season, but there's definitely an impact of the injuries on the left side of the defence. Up until a couple of weeks ago, they were OK on the right side of the defence. They've now even got problems there because they can't keep anybody fit. So that is an issue. There are some mitigating circumstances with injuries. It still shouldn't be as bad as it is, though, and let's be clear. They look terrible at times. They look shocking in games. And I have to say, looking at them at Crystal Palace on Monday night, it was a hard watch. It's hard to watch that as a United fan. But then that's where you get to. So is this down to Erik ten Hag? Because it was down to Ollie, it was down to Jose, it was down to Louis van Gaal. They all basically, sort of the chop fell upon them all because we all said, well, we didn't all say, but it was a case of, look, you've got to change the coach. But changing the coach has never worked yet. Now, it may work at some point, but it's not worked yet. And changing the players hasn't worked because the players have gone through a cycle. We've still got players here that are from Jose Mourinho and even probably beyond. At some point, the club's got to stand still, reset, and that's obviously happening with Ineos now outside of the football side and at the top of the football side with Dan Ashworth and Jason Wilcox. I think maybe just a little bit of stability before they make their next move might just be the wisest thing to do, because do you see an obvious appointment for Manchester United? No one else does. I always say to United fans
there was talk of Gareth Southgate probably a month or 2 months ago, and on your podcast you guys said, oh, we can all see it. Can you actually see?
No, I didn't see it at the time. I never saw Gareth as United manager, but if you could see it, I can't see it. When I think about it from an England context, and Gareth's got incredible values. Now, obviously Manchester United's a massive job, so if he was offered this role, could he turn it down? But if he takes the job before the Euros, he's going to have a rough ride off England fans in the summer. If he doesn't take the job before the Euros and they try and wait and Manchester United don't appoint the manager, fans are going to cotton onto it, the media are going to cotton onto it, and they're going to work out what's happening. He's going to have a difficult time in the Euros. I've come to the conclusion that for Gareth to be the manager of England this summer in the Euros, which he is, and managed Manchester United in the same sort of pre-season, trying to bring players in. United start pre-season training the first week in July. England will be in a quarter-final then. Is that realistic? Is that going to happen? I don't see how that can happen personally at this moment, just logistically.
Ineos are big admirers of Arsenal and how they've had this transformation under Mikel Arteta and Edu. What do you think are the main lessons they can learn from Arsenal?
They've believed in Mikel Arteta and they've invested in Mikel Arteta, and they've brought really good players in. You know, I questioned Mikel Arteta after 1 or 2 seasons and said, look, he achieved top 4, I think. I can't remember when it was. I thought that could be as good as it gets, because I didn't think Arsenal would go that extra mile. I never thought they had £100 million signing in them as a board. What they've done since is, it was obviously in the early days that Mikel Arteta set them up really well. It was obviously he was transitioning away from some of the older players. I just didn't think they would give him the time or the investment to be able to do what he's done. He's done an amazing job. Arsenal deserve great credit. No one ever foresaw that Arsenal would be where they are now 3 years ago. Arsenal fans at the end of one season were questioning whether Mikel Arteta should stay. And there was that doubt, wasn't there? But they've invested heavily in him. And it's smart. And just even if he doesn't win the league this year, this is a proper team. We're watching a proper team play football. This is a team that's come through now a title race. Last season they were struggling mentally in that title race and physically. This year, whatever happens today, whatever happens next week, they've come through a title race. They're in a title race and they've lived in it and they've breathed it. So for me, they've done absolutely wonderfully well. If they can go and win it, it will be a almost miracle, because City are a machine that don't seem to make a mistake. But at least they can feel really proud. And actually, maybe they just have to wait for Pep to go. Maybe they just have to wait for Pep to make a mistake, or the recruitment at City just to sort of dip off a little bit. Maybe they have to just be a little bit more patient, but there's no doubt that they're on the right track.